Today we've got a takeover episode. Wah, wah. This particular takeover is coming straight from a new podcast I've created called the Connect to Market Pod. And it's coming straight to you, straight to your ears. You don't even have to click on anything. Now, Connect to Market, what is this, Casey? It's a new pod, but it's also a community of marketing leaders. And if you like what you hear or you want to join the conversation, come on over. Head over to connecttomarket.com. Connecttomarket.com. All right, let's do this.
It's very easy to use the great powers of observation, which really good marketers have. And really good salespeople have too. But again, marketers are looking for different things, right? We're looking for like vibes and communication styles and things like that. Just walking around and meeting people is a great way to do that.
Welcome to Connect to Market. I'm Casey Cheshire. Join us as we learn from marketing leaders who are driving founder-led growth. We're sponsored by Ringmaster, building B2B podcasts and communities to reconnect you with your audience. All right, the train has left the station. Let's go, guys. I'm excited, so excited to get into this conversation today. My guest today is an absolute badass. I can't wait to introduce you to her. If you have been in our community roundtables, you may have met her. You may have been in a breakout session, in which case you're going to go, oh yeah, I can't wait to get to this show. Great to learn about our fellow community members. But who is she, Casey? Who is she? Well, a marketing leader. Absolute thought leader. She is an AI. I'd almost call her like an explorer, like a Voyager satellite off in the distance. She is at the forefront out in the galaxy, experimenting with things. And every conversation we have, I learn something new about AI. So we can't wait to dive into that too. Brand expert, very entrepreneurial in her marketing strategy, journalist, innovator. She was selected for Perplexity's 2025 AI Business Fellowship, which she just finished, and I can't wait to pick her brain on that. SVP of Marketing and Product Management, yes, both at 360 Factors. Megan Ward, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And probably the most kind and generous introduction I've ever had. It was wonderful to be here. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here too. You know what? If you want to clip that intro and just make it like your wake up ringtone in the morning, that,
I
just
think
gets
I
you hyped
will.
every day.
Let's do it. Great idea.
Do it. Well, hey, for this first question, we always ask this first question. I got to put on a giant foam finger with a number 1 on it. All right.
There it is.
The spotlight's on you. So the question is, what is the number 1 thing that marketers need to do in order to connect to their market?
Well, wonderful question. It changes, the best thing about being in marketing is that seems to change and shift every few years. I think that's what keeps the profession really interesting and engaging for people that choose marketing as a career.
Yeah.
But to lay it out there today, I would say that I believe marketing leaders, as much as humanly possible, should be spending time with real people in their markets. And that may seem obvious, but at least in B2B SaaS where I live and operate, marketing is often seen as this sort of mysterious, behind the scenes, magical lead generation machine, right? And that's a good thing.
Right. And that's it, right?
That's it. And, if that's the mission, we've got to do our best to complete the mission. Right. And we should do that. And we should take that if that is the mission at your organization. But I do think, Casey, that as marketing leaders in organizations where that is the mission, that we're just going to be much more effective in guiding our teams and our content, our campaigns, brand strategy, all of that when we deeply know our customers.
Tell me what's happening here, because I feel like it sounds like a no-brainer that we should know our customers, but at the same time, I think we can all nod our heads that isn't really happening most of the time.
I think you're right, and there's a couple of reasons. So number one, our sales team members are having tons of conversations, right? And
Right.
if everything's going well, then that's happening, and that's great. That's obviously a huge part of their job. But in those conversations, I think that they're listening for different things than we as marketers would listen for, right? Their jobs are different and they're observing different things than we might observe as marketers. So they're having conversations and interactions, but marketing a lot of times is working off a dusty ICP kind of persona document that has these mythical or pseudo personas, and it possibly gets dusted off and refreshed from time to time. But how helpful is that really? And that's where I see this great contradiction.
Yeah, it's like the image in my mind. What a classic image! Like a marketer picking up an old tome in a wizard's tower and blowing the
God.
die, and it just like flies everywhere. Like, oh, I haven't seen this book in years.
Hey, let's pick it up and tweak it like 1%. Yep.
Right. And to your point, marketing's always changing, and our customer ICP might be changing. But if we established it in the 70s, who even knows? One time I was working for a company, and their email list, they were kind of seeing it like treasure under a dragon, where they wanted to keep every
Mm.
single person on there. And they literally had people from the 70s on like Yahoo and AOL accounts that didn't even exist anymore. Like the people had retired or died. They weren't even around anymore. And
Yeah.
they were just in their database bouncing every time.
Oh, brutal.
So talk about the dusty.
Brutal.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I wanted to zero in on this. This was a really key point. And I feel like you just got sound bites coming out you left and right. The idea that sales is listening, but they're listening for something different. Could you talk more about that? Like,
Yeah.
what does marketing tend to listen to, or should they be?
In marketing, we want to listen to make sure, and we want to observe and make sure that we're able to effectively communicate our messaging in a way that is going to be most receptive to our market.
Yeah.
So, answering questions like, do we speak or communicate like they speak? So, some of it is vibe, tone, brand voice, right? And just really aligning that to our market. And in sales conversations, really they're wanting to make sure that they do their job and advance deals and projects forward when it makes sense. And so really they're looking for things like, who's my champion in this conversation? Right? What am I listening for to understand who else needs to be involved on the other side of this deal to advance, this opportunity? And that's their job to do that, right? So, but in marketing, we want to know, um, is this appealing the way we're presenting information and easy to understand by the target market?
Right. Does it even resonate with and it's almost like a push and a pull sometimes. And I'm making this up. I don't even know if it's true, but you tell me. The idea of like sales there can be, generically speaking, can be very much like, I need to push this deal along, whereas marketing is like, I'm trying to understand, how do I pull you into our web so we get you in the funnel and
Yeah, that's right. And then there's a lot of content throughout that process too, right? That
yeah,
supports. So there's top of the funnel and then you have middle of the funnel content. And so
yeah,
there's different areas where marketing interacts, right? And we need to know who those different personas are
right,
at each phase and make sure that we are providing not only relevant bits of information at the
yeah,
right time, but that we're truly able to feel like we are communicating in a way that is effective. And I don't know how to do that without a lot of A/B testing that's endless, unless your marketing leadership is actually engaged with real people in your
yeah,
market.
yeah. And this is not surveys. This is not like reading tea leaves. Well, what do you recommend? Like, what is the best way to just really deeply connect one-on-one with the real humans you're talking about with your market?
So, when I added the product role to my existing role,
Yeah.
that's when really the light bulb went off.
Okay.
Because somehow also being on the leadership side of product management unlocked a lot of opportunities to personally go out there to different events and understand the market, right? So from sort of a market research and validation perspective for some new products that we're looking to launch. And when I realized that I was getting a lot of great takeaways from that, how it was also impacting my perception of the market
Hmm.
for our existing product suite, there's just so much valuable data that you can get from going to some of these events. So whether it's like a trade show or, some type of industry event, it's really important to get out there, and you're probably not going to go to all of them and you might not get budget, but try and attend one or two. And oftentimes what you can do as well as the event coordinators and organizers, once they understand that's coming out of the marketing budget and you're the leader of your marketing team, you will often be able to negotiate either a day pass to just walk the trade show floor, the exhibit hall, not attend sessions or networking events, but you can easily score some time around there where you're not taking up like a full pass that your team member or sales team member might need. And when you're there, Casey, it's very easy to use the great powers of observation, which really good marketers have. And really good salespeople have too. But again, marketers are looking for different things, right? We're looking for like vibes and communication styles and things like that. But you're there. I mean, just walking around and meeting people is a great way to do that. If you can get some budget from your company to be able to, get your travel taken care of. A lot of times that's just can be free.
It's so true. The idea of, the vibe, the style, the energy of your customer, and nothing conveys some of the nonverbal things like being there, mixing with them, even just observing them in the expo hall, and how are they? Are they all outgoing? Are they super shy? Are they all on their phones? Like, you know, are they are they super nerdy, or are they like dressed like salespeople? Like, who are they, to get a sense for, what kind, and so that way you don't sound like, I feel like the perfect example of this is like me when I like to throw Gen Z slang at my kids,
Hmm,
because not because I do it well, but because I don't do it well, and I get these reactions from them of like, "Oh, dad, like, nice try," or no, almost they always say like, "That's not how you that's not the right use of that word," you know? And
right.
I kinda know that, but I like getting the reaction, but not if you're marketing, right? Trying to throw out some terminology, and if you get it wrong, the people just go, "Oh, who's that imposter?"
Exactly. And the default is this sort of bland corporate speak,
Right.
right? Because you want to play it safe, you don't know. So everything just kind of is acceptable. And that's okay, but then you're also missing an opportunity to infuse your brand and your communication with some personality that might help you stand out from the crowd.
Right.
Here's another, example. I went to a conference for a, kind of a different persona within the market that we serve.
Okay.
And I knew almost immediately from sitting there for a half day and just interacting with people and, going through a couple of the sessions that the typical writing style framework that we utilize for a different persona within the same industry would not work.
Tell me more. Tell me more. What
Yeah, so we'll utilize like the past framework, problem, agitation, solution in communications, relevant communications, depending on, where somebody is in the funnel. And I'm at a conference for CFOs.
Sure.
And I was just like, that is just not going to work. I know that framework is not going to work by just sitting here and simply observing and interacting with people. And what we should do is make sure we don't use that framework as a style in our marketing communications. And we need to go find a different framework that will be more suitable.
Got it. And maybe this is just that subtle feeling that you get, but Was it something about the way they communicate or the style, like very, like they don't want the drama. They're like, just give me the facts, or like, what was it about it that told you that past wasn't going to work?
Yeah, it's just I would say a more matter of fact. Yeah, just the facts, ma'am. It is going to
Mhm.
be more, I would say, more able to be received positively than a framework that we may utilize for somebody else in that organization.
Got it.
Like, maybe it would be too over the top or a turn off.
Yeah, right. Like that's not, um, it's not the right. Yeah, I just again break the bar.
It's just not gonna it's not vibing. It's not vibing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So the idea of getting out and attending, being in the same proximity physically, you can pick up on so much. What else is in your bag of tricks in terms of how you deeply connect?
So that's if you've got, you wanna spend time with real people live and in person, right? So that's like this gold standard. Do that as much as you possibly can. The There's the opposite of that. I can still spend time with real people in our market, not live and not in
Mhm.
person. And that is, and I'm just going to put it out there, like, don't sleep on call recordings. Call recordings are gold. So since the pandemic, everybody ran to Zoom or Teams or whatever, right? But all of a sudden, everybody was remote and we all got used to having Zoom meetings or alternatives to Zoom, but right where everybody was doing that. And that technology has persisted, even though a lot of operations, depending on what field you're in, have returned, back to the way that they were before the pandemic.
Mhm.
And so there is this wealth, gold mine of information in Zoom call recordings. So if I can't get out to an event and I can't connect to somebody in person, I, as a marketer, can spend maybe 1 hour a week and just go through what was the recent demo call? What was the recent pricing call? And do maybe 1 hour a week. And I'm not there to observe or hear about what our team members on that call might be saying as much, although it's interesting. Um, I'm there to observe our customer or our prospective customer because you can still pick up a lot of that nuance by just simply spending 1 hour watching that recording. And then you can really supercharge it. So once you've done that, maybe, 1 hour a week, that's typically what I'll spend.
Yep.
I'll go and collect 25. So I just did this last week. It was wonderful. Go collect the top most recent 25 recordings. And in this case, I used demo recordings and really just utilize the deep analytical powers of AI to go through, scan the transcripts. So grab the transcripts, cleanse the transcripts. Like I took out people's names, things like that, right? Just find, replace, salesperson, prospect, and all of those. Upload all that. And, with a couple of really good prompts, you can get and easily understand what are the current questions that our customers and prospects are asking about our product. They may be very different from what you assumed, maybe very different today than that FAQs page you put on your website 2 years ago, right? So even knowing, what are the commonalities in what real people are asking about in our products and solutions, AI is able to help you do that at scale. It's not able to help you sort of pick up on those vibes and refine your brand voice, but it is really good for these other areas. And I can think of like 10 more use cases where I could grab other calls and go do the same thing, but that's, I'm sure, a topic for another time.
It's so true that Zoom became ubiquitous, right? And so, and I think back in the day, it was the land of Gong, right? Gong was
Yep.
recording and analyzing, and you were like, "Ooh, magic." But it's kinda like everyone can Gong now because everyone's got recordings, everyone's got transcripts. I love the fact that you process those. and then you've got insights you can share, and it's not throwing anyone under the bus. But one of the interesting things that I actually underlined this when I was taking notes was you were not there to observe your team and listen to what they were saying. I was about the other voice. And I can very clearly see like sales leadership being like, I'm there to hear what are you saying? Are you asking the right questions, sales rep? But as the marketing lead thinking, what are the words they're saying? And this gets back to, me not using Gen Z slang the right way, but like using their own words back to them. It can be a great technique.
Yeah, it can be a great technique. And then, especially in software, we are all very, our products can be very simple or they can be very complex.
Yeah.
And when we spend a lot of time with our products, we innately understand our products or services or solutions,
Yeah.
right? Because we've just been around it a lot. So for us, it's very easy to describe. You can also get a sense by doing this of really how familiar is your prospective customer or your market? How familiar are they with technology, right? So, um, with what technology is capable of, and then also kind of how ready are they for technology? Are we just putting a lot of features out there that nobody cares and nobody asking about these features? What are they really trying to solve? So that's a great thing for us to bring back when we get excited about our products and go, hey, let's come back and make sure that we're really understanding what is our market trying to solve. And let's talk about the level of education that is required and what gaps do we have in actually providing that content.
100% reminds me of the VCR remote I was trying to use last night, rewatching Friends, because that's what you do when you can't find anything good on Netflix. And so we were rewatching like season 1 of Friends on DVD,
Oh,
and
wow.
the chunky remote, and the kids are coming in, so we got to pause it because sometimes they get a little risque. And so
Hmm.
I'm trying to pause the dang thing, but where is the pause button? Right?
Yeah,
There's like 30 other buttons that I've never used.
exactly. I don't need a play, power, pause, rewind.
Play, pause. That's it. Power, right? And yeah, and it's so true to be thinking about, do they not only do they need this, but to your point, are they ready for it?
Right, right. Are we really focusing? So if they would have, right, was ideally as in marketing, we would have closed a lot of those gaps, right?
Yeah.
We would have been doing a really good job at awareness and consideration, and we'd be right at that consideration phase. And so
Yeah.
you can also, if you get a, top 10 questions and, two of them are something that you think that your team is knocking it out of the park on, but your prospective customer has no clue or is asking questions about that, then we know we aren't doing a great job
Right.
at filling that gap, right? And making it easier for our prospective customers and our existing customers to know that that's something we can just handle and they don't have to ask us about that.
Yeah, they don't at all. With your background in product, and I know you spoke to a little bit about the trade shows, and there's that focus on the product, and you're thinking in a different way, and that's really empowering your marketing. I feel like there's so many decision trees with an interview with you, conversation with you, where I'm like, we could nerd out on that stuff, we could nerd out on the personal, but I would be a completely regretful person for not going down the AI rabbit hole even more with you, because you had just finished the Perplexity fellowship. Can you just tell me, what are you excited about in the future of AI? What's really kind of, what are the flashes and what are the things that we should be paying attention to that you're already seeing out there in the distant galaxy?
The big thing for 2025 was supposed to be the year of the agent. And that's not really here yet. So ChatGPT just came out with Agent. I finally got it last week. I've been playing around with it. It's great. But when I'm thinking about Agent, I'm thinking about Megan's digital twin, right? So like
Yeah.
the virtual version of Megan and the virtual version of Casey. And all of us have like these digital twins effectively. And having that agent be able to do a lot of the things that that just take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's happening this year, sadly. I think about that as an amazing opportunity to really get a lot more things done and have to not sift through so much information in order to be able to, identify the things that we need to identify, to be worked on, and make decisions. So I'm excited for that in the hopefully not too distant future. I also, on the flip side, understand that that means that premium experiences are like human experiences, right? So if we all have a bunch of agents running around, then that's yet another barrier of connecting with people. So there's the good
Yeah.
side is, yep, I can deploy a agent to just go handle, some of my social media that I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on, and I can do something else with that time. Conversely, what if it's just my agent talking to your agent most of the time, right? So that's a
100%.
that's a
100%.
barrier. So it's exciting, and I'm all for it personally, but also I realize if that's the direction that we go in, then how do we in marketing, how do we enable ourselves and our customer-facing teams to have more premium human experiences? And I think those experiences will be, like, considered the premium. I don't think trade shows and events are gonna be discounted anytime soon. Let's just say I think they're gonna get more expensive, right? And it's gonna be harder to have one-to-one connections because, our agents will be scheduling them for us. So that's where I'm really seeing the opportunity in AI. And where as a marketer, I'm very much invested in connecting to market with real people as much as possible who are in the market.
Powerful.
What would you have your agent do?
Good question. Because I think the hard part isn't necessarily even the agent. The hard part is what do you want, right? So it's almost like, what is the outcome you like? What is the goal? What are your priorities as a person? So almost all of this stuff, person or as a professional, make you go, oh, wait, well, let's shift it back onto you now. You could have them do anything you want. Well, what's important to you? So it's like, well, I wouldn't have them manage my kids because, well, that's the really rich part. That's the human part you're
Of
talking
course.
about. So it's like, I think for me, there's certain aspects of like adulting, like the car registrations,
Mhm.
and um, it's almost like that category of don't forget the milk, those kind of things. I think for me also, it's like the ability to serve you up contextually relevant to-dos, and it's sort of reminding you of your priorities, right? Like, you said this was your priority. Well, let me just keep reminding you about that. Um, I also really like the idea of getting reminded and coached through my blind spots or the weak areas that I'm not seeing, getting them called out and then give me some give me some coaching on that.
Mm,
But, I'd
that's
love to
good.
farm out my workouts, but
Yeah,
that
you need to do those.
I need to do those, right? So,
Yep.
yeah, like, what are the things that, I guess it's the things that aren't fun for me. I'm trying to fill out a 5,500 tax form right now.
Mhm.
I would farm that out. 100, I don't wanna fill that out.
Yep,
So,
have your agent fill it out, hand it off to your other agent who does the review, and give
review,
it back
yeah,
to you, and then you need to go, and then maybe if you need another human to do the final review, you could do that, but at least you're not
right,
having to fill it out. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I would have mine. I'd deploy mine to LinkedIn
yeah,
because LinkedIn is, and I was trying this with Comet, a portion of this with Comet just yesterday, Comet browser from Perplexity, and I just quickly scrolled my feed on LinkedIn so it could see the whole page of my homepage where the feed is on LinkedIn. And I just asked it, is there anything here related to, and I think it was AI and marketing was what I asked it. And if so, just summarize for me. And it quickly went through in maybe 20 seconds. And it said, not really. There's nothing here in the feed today. And I was like, perfect. That's done. Right. So now I just need a little agent that's going to do that every day without me having to go prompt it.
Yeah.
And I could do a little workflow that actually
Yeah.
does that. But that's, that's one thing that I think would save time. Also, I think and I just thought of this kind of interesting. So if you and I both had these agents, right, and we're on LinkedIn or whatever, then as a marketer and as, a leader in your organization, you do need to know what's out there that's new in products or services that you care about, right, that
Yeah.
are important to your organization, that I don't necessarily want to go through and validate the different connection requests that I get and then the Insta like pitch messages. Something in there might be good that I need to know about. So it's still pretty relevant, could be relevant information. I don't want to spend my time doing that.
Yeah. The not really, I think that you've highlighted is just important as doing the good things, but also helping you cut out some of the bad things. Layer it on spam messages as well too, or inboxes. But I think the LinkedIn inbox has become like the new inbox, and that needs some help. But I will say, shout out to Condo is an app I use on LinkedIn, and it's like that. What is that? The human. See, it's like Superhuman, but
Oh,
for
cool.
LinkedIn. Love that. But yeah, I'm sure you just layer a little AI on that thing and make it even more magical. But um, yeah.
Oh, I'll check that out for sure. Yeah, I spend a lot of time just sort of filtering through things, and there's some things in there, even pitches, right? Some of the pitches, I'm like, I should learn more about that, or maybe I'll take that call. But
Yeah.
let's have their agent and my agent get together and sort that out. My agent knows what I'm kind of prioritizing, and then just book the meeting for us and just ignore the rest.
And there is an app unto itself right there, Megan. Maybe
Let's go.
we should launch that
I go
together.
bonkers, right? I bet a lot of people want that.
But hey, you want to pitch me? Cool. Talk to my AI first.
Right. My AI is going to go through some qualification questions and make it easy, and then nobody's wasting time.
Yeah. And then bubbles it up to me.
Hmm.
Cool. We'll launch that. We'll make an app. We'll launch that. And then you can have little bounties too. Like, well, tell you what, if you
Yeah,
donate $5 to my AI charity, my AI will talk to you.
that's
Um,
right. Bounties for AI is probably pretty good.
well, my next question for you is like, who the heck are you? How do you know all these things? Can you take me back in time, little you
Oh
days?
boy.
What was little Megan like? Did she know she was going to be an absolute badass in the AI world? Future journalist, PR, marketing powerhouse. What was it like?
Little Megan had a dream of becoming a journalist back in the day.
Yeah. Where'd that come from?
Um, the actually only person we sort of find in the family that went down the marketing path is my grandfather was my grandfather on my mom's side. He was a marketer. I'm like the only person that maybe inherited that. But I didn't really know what marketing was when I was in middle school and didn't
Of course.
care. And so I thought, I want to be like a newspaper person, maybe an editor one day. So that's the path I went down middle school, high school, and in college at UT, University of Texas, and got a degree in that. When I was at UT, about halfway through the degree, I very much came to realize that, in fact, was not all that I had it built up to be in my mind. It was probably very like romanticized in my mind. And then
100%.
once I got out there into like real newsrooms, I was like, "Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna have to pivot."
What about them made you do that? What about what was the thing that you didn't know as a college student about it?
I didn't really get the vibe until I was there, and I realized that the vibe was not for me. Just the entire environment of the local newsroom experience that I got, and I was newspapers. It was just not something where I thought that I would fit in long term. Yeah. I didn't like the vibe. And I was like, I don't think I can career it doing this. But now I've got, this thing that I like to do. And I need to go figure out how to, what else is available where I can apply this and go make a career. And that's what happened. Got into marketing.
How did you discover it? Had you been exposed a little bit during your comm and PR and journalism classes to it, or as like electives, or?
No, it was in the business school and I was in the
Okay.
journalism school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not really. But the first real job I got out of college was to be the communications director for the State Tourism Association here in
Wow.
Texas. And so the title was communications director, but effectively in the skills that I picked up and the responsibilities in that job, it was a marketing job. So communications, yes, but also many other aspects of marketing, which I learned there. And it all is like combined, right? So marketing has a lot of different disciplines underneath it, or a lot of kind of subcategories of marketing. And so it all sort of rolled up to marketing. But that's really what that job was. And I loved it. I liked doing more than just the one thing that I thought I wanted to do.
It's so funny. I had a similar experience where I remember having PR classes, and it wasn't until I got into a PR agency, did an internship, kind of liked it, but then they're like, here's like no money. Here's a full-time
Oh,
job offer
yeah.
for no money. And then I was like, what? And then I decided I'd rather be the CEO or the journalist, but not the one introducing the two of them together and kind of like fading into the bushes, you know? But it's funny how school just taught, oh, don't forget the pound at the end of the press release, or the 3 tildes or something. Like, it was so critical. And then you get out in the real world and like, yeah, it's like a few people do that, but mostly we're doing marketing and sales all over the place, you know?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly, 100%.
Man.
Yeah.
So, um, and then you were sort of, with that first role, when did it really click for you that, like, marketing, that's the thing?
It was really in that role. I realized how much in that role, I really loved it, and I was very fortunate that my parents are both very entrepreneurial, so they've been entrepreneurs most of their careers.
Really?
And, yeah, I had got the bug. I don't know if it's a gene or it was just a bug. It was just through observing them, but I also wanted to do that. So at the ripe age, the wise age of 25, I
Oh, yes.
said, "I think I can go serve the community, and I wanna go try and see if I can spin up like a little mini agency." And I did that for 12 years, and it was a wonderful experience because I got to interact with so many um, different types of organizations like retail and software and nonprofit and just, all sorts of different clients when I built that business. And it was really, really fun. And by just having to having to learn and adapt so much, I learned a lot about what somebody would call like a full stack marketer,
Yeah.
right? So we just had to learn it, or we had to get people on the team that knew it, in order to put campaigns together and, deliver good results for the customers.
Man, yeah. Uh, okay, so my next question here, because there's so many questions, I have for you, but my next question is a bit of a hypothetical question, if you're ready for this one. So you see, I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire. So you come visit, do an event in Boston, drive a little bit north. It's in the backyard, covered in a tarp.
That's the business right there. I mean, we don't even care about AI if you have a time machine.
Okay, well,
Like, let's go.
yeah,
Let's market that time machine.
let's go, right? So, but it's a particular kind of time machine, right?
Okay.
So you get a good chance to go back in time and visit yourself 4 days after getting that journalism degree from the UT. So what would you tell yourself? You get to have a conversation with yourself. What would you tell that Megan?
I would give myself a piece of advice that seems very obvious to me today, but for much of my, I would say, career, I didn't focus on and I never internalized. And I think this would have helped me straight out of college with journalism degree, Megan, have a lot more confidence early on as I was entering like the workforce and entrepreneurship. And that is very simple idea, which is to never assume that somebody knows what you know, because it is the most limiting belief in the world. And that, Casey, is something that I have just, even in the last year, really have decided to try and internalize, not just remind myself of. And it seems really obvious to some people, but it just never felt that obvious to me. I would think of things like, even today, well, if I can do this with AI, anybody can do it. If I know
Mm,
this because I read it in a very popular book that everybody's reading, then, what's the big deal? Or if I have some wisdom, 3 years of experience, then anybody can have that. That's just this very limiting belief that I recognize that, is something that have struggled with, but didn't really realize it. And I would go tell young Megan, just put that one in the trash today
yeah.
because it is the most limiting belief in the world. But how about you? What would you tell young Casey?
Yeah. No, it really, because it took me a while to figure out that I was, um, like a consultant mindset or an entrepreneur where like I want to get in, I want to see what's broken, fix it. And once everything's cool, hand it off to someone and like, let's go break something else. Right.
Mhm.
Um, and but that would occur naturally to me in the marketing cycle. And right about, a year and a half, 2 years, I'm like, okay, we're good. You know?
I fixed it all.
Yeah, yeah, and so just I think what I would, to convey that, I would probably tell myself to just stay in that passion zone. Like
Mhm.
if you're passionate, if you're fired up about it, if you can't go to sleep until you look it up a little bit more, like embrace that, lean into that, and kind of, similar to your point that if you're passionate about something, it's such a superpower. You're gonna know way more about it. You're gonna feel more about it. You're gonna just you really nobody can compete with you if you're in that zone because you're gonna be learning more than you're gonna be paying attention to all the details. You're gonna remember them because it's fun. And good luck competing with that if it's just work. And so I would
Oh,
just
yeah.
remind myself to stay in that passion zone. And it's okay that it changes, right? I did marketing automation for like 10 years in a company, and eventually I was like, "Oh, marketing automation," but like eventually it's okay. You may talk yourself out of liking something, and that's cool. But what's that other thing that lights you up? And find that
That's
next,
right.
you know?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a really good one. Really good one too is, yeah, be okay to change and be
yeah,
curious.
yeah. Stay
Yeah.
stay where you are curious, right? And that curiosity may wane at some point on a particular topic, and that's okay. Just what's the next one,
Yep.
and it's okay to embrace that. But I really like yours just because other people can do that doesn't mean that they do that. Just because they can know something doesn't mean they do know so like, and just not assuming that everyone like, that your strengths are just everyone else's status quo. Like, no, actually, they don't know. I haven't worked with that browser. I have no idea. Like, I am learning from you. And podcasts can be a great way to they're like my learning lab, is learning straight from other people and that kind of thing.
Yep.
So,
I think the challenge really is, and it's kind of my mission now.
oh, wow.
Um, my personal mission is to, so let's just not assume that somebody knows that, right? Just
Mhm.
because they can know it. Maybe this one process that I just described, right? Where we're going to go through and analyze a bunch of transcripts and go
Right.
find, what are the top 10 questions. Is really now going very non-AI and old school, documenting that. I want to make sure that if it has value, that somebody else knows about it in my company, right? So like, okay, here's how I did this. I got good results. Here's how to do this so that somebody else can go try and do the thing. And then when they do the thing, they're going to be like, cool, I could use this in a different way for these 4 things. And then you weren't even thinking about that use case, but they've
Right.
probably got 3 or 4 use cases, so that you don't have to know everything, right? But need to know enough to be able to hand that off to somebody else who may find it useful, and then it just sort of keeps going. So I think that's really a challenge of being like, okay, now I need to to actually document this and not just be the person who knows how to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and, like, hoard that information,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
because you whenever you teach it to someone else, you always get better at the thing, you know? Because you're like, "Oh, man, how do I articulate this so that they do it too, and they're successful in it too?" And then maybe you formulate how you might even do it yourself because you've had to teach someone to do it 3 or 4 times, and maybe you're winging it in part of it. So, yeah, like,
Yeah.
and then also feels good, right, to be able to contribute to someone else.
Oh, yes. Well, as marketing
Yeah.
leaders, right? I mean, that is what we should be doing.
True. True enough. Where can people connect with you if they wanna reach out?
So they can connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't spend a whole lot of time there, but I am until I get an agent that can do more LinkedIn. But they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm spending a bit of time lately on Substack as well. I know
Yep,
Connect to Markets on Substack. I love Substack.
me too.
So I spend a little bit more time over there, but those are both great places to find me, and you can just search for my name.
Find you on Substack. Cool. And what we'll do is, we'll link to both of those in the show notes, so people can just click right on through. And yeah, Substack has a good messaging platform as well, so that might be,
Yeah, it is. It's pretty nice.
yeah, good cheat code, a little hack is let's start messaging on Substack. If you know, you know.
That's right.
Um, dang. Well, I don't know if you know if you've looked at the clock, but we have literally time warped.
Oh my goodness. Nope. Just popped up and looked at it. Amazing.
Just popped up. Like, my gosh, this has been such a great
This
conversation.
has been so much fun. Really.
Thank you so much for coming on here. The learnings have been fantastic. The stories, listening for different things on the calls, validating, deeply knowing people, not making it mysterious marketing, but our powers of observation and just some of the anecdotes about being at that show and knowing that was not going to be that's not the vibe, that's not the words, the terminology. And then finally, just because other people can do it doesn't mean that they do. Like your specialty and your passion, great stuff. So thank you so much for coming on here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Anytime. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back. But share this with one person, 9 people, 3,000 people, whatever the number is, but even one person who needs to hear this. Maybe the next time you get some marketing and it just feels off, maybe that marketer needs to hear this episode and reconnect with their customer, get them this information. And with that, Megan, thank you again.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Connect to Market Pod. We will see you all next time. And that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at connecttomarket.com. Connect to Market is sponsored by Ringmaster, creating podcasts and communities that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth.